From burnout to rebirth. You didn't plan to burn out, but somewhere between pushing through the pain and pretending you were fine, something inside quietly dimmed. No loud crash, no sudden collapse, just a slow draining until even rest felt heavy. And now, here you are. Not ruined, not fully restored, just still. And maybe this stillness is not weakness. Maybe it's the ground clearing itself, preparing you for something stronger. A whisper from your soul. Don't just return, rise anew. Welcome back to Stoic-Wellspring, where stillness becomes strength, and even burnout can become the seed of renewal. In a world that rewards noise and speed, we come here for something else. Clarity, quiet, and a gentle return to truth. If you've been feeling drained, not just in your body, but in your spirit, this is where your rebirth begins. When stillness becomes the first step. This isn't just a story about burnout. It's about what happens after the flame fades, when the noise stops, the titles fade, and you're left standing in the quiet. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be unbreakable. It invites you to be honest, first with yourself. To pause, to reflect, to lay down what no longer serves you. This is your quiet reset, not to become someone entirely new, but to reclaim the self you left behind. And maybe that's where true strength is forged. 1. The burnout nobody sees. This is the quiet kind of burnout. No breakdown, no explosion, but a slow erosion of the soul. It marks the beginning of a true reset. You still show up. You still smile. You still answer emails and meet expectations. But inside, something feels off, like a dimming light you can't quite fix. You go through the motions. You do what's needed, but you feel like a memory of yourself, not fully present, not fully alive. This is the burnout nobody talks about. It's not a crash. It's not loud. It's a slow erasure of clarity, of joy, of will. The hardest part, you can still function. You still look fine, but deep down, you know, this isn't living, it's surviving with a smile. 2. The slow death of purpose. Burnout doesn't begin with collapse. It begins when meaning quietly fades away, when why disappears from your days. Burnout doesn't begin with collapse. It begins with disconnection. You stop asking why. You stop feeling the fire that once pulled you forward, and slowly your days become repetitions, not expressions. Stoicism teaches, the soul dies not from hardship, but from aimlessness. Marcus Aurelius once asked himself, at what point will you demand of yourself to live fully? Burnout is the whisper that says, not today. Until one day, there are no todays left. 3. The world doesn't pause, but you can. Life won't slow down for you, but Stoicism reminds us, the choice to pause is always ours. Stillness is not luxury, it's survival. The emails won't stop, the deadlines won't shrink. The world will keep spinning, but you can pause. You can close your eyes, take one deep breath, and ask, what have I been running from? Because maybe your burnout isn't about overworking. Maybe it's about avoiding rest, avoiding stillness, avoiding the truth that your soul has been whispering all along. 4. The courage to feel empty. Most people run from emptiness, but Stoicism invites us to sit with it, not to escape it, but to understand what it's trying to reveal. Most people rush to fill the emptiness. More noise, more tasks, more scrolling, anything to avoid the silence inside. But Stoicism asks something radical: to sit with the void, to not rush to fix it, to simply witness what's there, because only when we stop filling do we begin feeling, and in feeling there is clarity, not comfort, but truth. 5. When stillness feels unnatural. Stillness isn't always peaceful at first. For those who've lived in urgency, quiet can feel like guilt. But that's not weakness, it's detox. After years of rushing, stillness doesn't feel peaceful. It feels wrong, like you're wasting time, like you should be doing something. But that's not wisdom talking, that's your anxiety. The Stoics remind us, if you want to be still, you must first unlearn your addiction to urgency. Stillness is not the problem. It's the detox that makes it uncomfortable. 6. When breaking down is the turning point. Collapse is not failure. In Stoic thought, it's the moment illusions fall and what remains is finally real. You might think the lowest point of your burnout is the end, but often that's where the reset begins. Epictetus once reminded his students, difficulties show a person's true character. Breaking down is not weakness. It's the collapse of everything false you've built to survive. And when the old structures fall, what remains is real. Think of a tree in winter. It looks dead, but inside it's storing life. Sometimes falling apart is not failure. It's a sacred pause, a shedding of what no longer serves you. In the quiet of collapse, something honest starts to whisper. Now, let's begin again, but real this time. 7. The fire you thought you lost. What you thought was gone, your purpose, clarity, passion, may have simply retreated. Stoicism teaches us to dig within, not search outside. There was a time when you burned with purpose. You woke up with clarity, moved with certainty. But then came the weight of expectations, of failure, of noise, and slowly the fire faded. You thought you lost it forever. But fire doesn't vanish. It retreats. Marcus Aurelius said, dig within. Within is the wellspring of good, and it is always ready to bubble up if you just dig. Your fire didn't leave you. You stopped listening to it. It's there, under the burnout, beneath the cynicism, waiting not to explode, but to glow again, and that glow is enough to begin again. 8. The fear of beginning again. Starting again is terrifying, not because we're weak, but because we remember the pain. Stoicism doesn't silence that fear, it teaches us to walk with it. What if you fail again? What if this reset is just another loop? These are the questions your fear will whisper, and Stoicism doesn't tell you to ignore them, it tells you to face them. Epictetus reminded us, "How long will you wait before you demand the best of yourself?" This fear of starting, of failing, of being seen, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you care. It means you remember how it hurt, but caring too much about past failures makes you timid about future truths. Beginning again isn't weak, it's defiant. It says, "I'm still here." Nine, the peace after the fire. True peace doesn't come from avoiding fire, it comes from enduring it and realizing you are more than what burned. You've been through fire. Not metaphorical fire, but real moments of burn. Disappointments, collapses, days where your spirit cracked and no one noticed. And yet, here you are, not ashes, but alive. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." The world didn't break you. Your judgment about the pain did. So this new peace isn't the absence of hardship. It's the rebalance, the unlearning, the stillness that comes after surviving yourself. You are not the fire, you are what remains when the fire is done. Ten, when the world moves on without you. One of the hardest moments in burnout is realizing the world didn't stop. But sometimes, being left behind is the beginning of seeing clearly. At some point in your burnout, the world didn't slow down for you. Deadlines still loomed. Expectations stayed loud. Friends moved forward. News kept cycling. Social media kept pretending. And you stood still. Not out of laziness, but because you were breaking. And when the world doesn't wait, something in you dies. But maybe it's the right part. Maybe the part that died was your obsession with approval. Your need to keep up, your addiction to applause. What was left was quieter, simpler. Not someone desperate to be seen, but someone learning to see themselves. "11. The gift of not being needed. To no longer be essential in others' lives may feel like loss, but for the Stoic, it is a quiet return to living from within, not for approval. One day, you realize no one is waiting on you. The world didn't pause, the group chat went on. That old role you played, the fixer, the listener, the achiever, someone else has filled it. At first, it stings. You feel replaced, forgotten. But slowly, another feeling creeps in. Freedom. You're not needed, which means you're not tied. Not to a role, not to an image, not to a version of you that was built to serve others. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions." Not being needed lets you return to your own actions. To live, not to be important, but to be aligned. 12. The death of who you used to be. In every deep transformation, something in you must die, not as tragedy, but as a sacred clearing. You cannot carry all versions of you into your future. Not all deaths wear black. Some happen silently in the pause between who you were and who you're becoming. Maybe you no longer laugh the same. Maybe you walk slower. Maybe you're no longer trying so hard to be understood. That version of you, the loud one, the proving one, the one who couldn't rest, is gone, and in its place, stillness. It's a strange grief, mourning who you no longer are. But Epictetus reminds us, don't seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens, and you will be happy. The death of the old you is the only way to make room for who you were meant to become. "13. You don't need to add more, you need to carry less." Healing often feels like accumulation, new goals, habits, affirmations, but the Stoic path teaches subtraction, releasing what was never truly yours. We're taught that healing means adding new goals, new habits, new affirmations. But the Stoics taught the opposite. Healing often means subtracting. Subtracting the noise, subtracting the performance, subtracting the shame. It's not that you weren't enough, it's that you were carrying too much. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Healing begins not with grasping more, but with releasing what never belonged. "14. You didn't become someone new, you returned to who you were." In a world obsessed with reinvention, Stoicism whispers something quieter. You were never lost, only buried beneath noise, fear, and approval. Most people talk about reinventing themselves, but maybe you never needed to reinvent. You needed to return. Return to your voice before it was silenced. Return to your pace before it was rushed. Return to your essence before it was buried in approval. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." The journey wasn't about transformation, it was about truth. "15. The silence isn't empty, it's full of you." At first, silence feels like absence, but over time, we discover it's the presence of the truest part of ourselves, long overshadowed by noise. At first, the quiet felt foreign. You were used to the noise of goals, opinions, comparisons. But slowly, silence became a friend. In that silence, you didn't vanish. You emerged. Seneca once said, "Withdraw into yourself, especially when you are forced to be in a crowd." And in doing so, you found that the real you was never the noise or the chase. It was always this, quiet, steady, grounded. "16. Peace comes from walking, not chasing." The Stoic path isn't a race. It's a return to rhythm, walking steadily with presence, not sprinting in search of completion. You used to chase healing like a finish line, as if one day you'd arrive fully fixed, finally complete. But Stoicism teaches healing isn't a place, it's a posture. You don't reach peace by sprinting. You reach it by walking, slowly, with presence. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery doesn't come from speed, it comes from still steps, repeated daily. "17. From what broke you came what built you." You didn't rebuild in spite of what happened. You rebuilt because of it. Stoicism transforms pain into the raw material of inner architecture. Maybe you lost time, lost people, lost pieces of yourself. But look closer, that's where your foundations were laid. You didn't rebuild despite the fall. You rebuilt through it. That's the Stoic paradox. Hardship doesn't break you, it reveals you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter." And you did, again and again, until doing the right thing became who you are. "18. You didn't start over, you started true." Burnout didn't destroy you, it stripped what was false. Your reset wasn't a restart, it was a return to authenticity. They thought you were starting over, but you weren't returning to zero. You were returning to truth. A version of you that doesn't hustle to belong, that doesn't run to prove, that doesn't confuse noise with purpose. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "If it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining." You endured, quietly, without applause. And from that stillness, something sacred began. Before you move forward, pause, let the quiet catch up with you. Healing doesn't come only from knowing, it comes from feeling what you've ignored. Breathe. Before you scroll, before you close this video, pause. Ask yourself, where did this story meet you? Not in your goals, not in your plans, but in your quiet. Can you feel where you've been carrying too much? Can you remember who you were before you burned out? Healing doesn't demand speed, it invites honesty. So be still, even for just 30 seconds. That silence is your medicine. Thank you for spending this quiet time with Stoic-Wellspring, where meaning begins with self-honesty. If this video whispered something real to you, let that truth settle inside you. Then, when you're ready, share it, speak it. Your words might be the stillness someone else is waiting for. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his Meditations, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." Be well, be still, be free.